Ash, Adonai, Elohim, Sabayath, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts. Yah, He, Vah, He. Those 4 syllables can be said as a prayer or a mantra, which has a strong vibrational frequency. First, Yah, Father who art in heaven. Hey, which is the supernal mother who art in the earth, which is Mother Nature. Va, which is their creation, us, let us create them in our image. And back to Hey, which is Anna Chokma, Mother Wisdom, spirits of the wind. As a collective whole, creating the tetragrammaton. As above, so below, the macro prosophis above, and the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms and the host of the Elohim. Salah. All right. Today, I want to go into implementing the law, statutes, and commandments that are actually in the Bible. And I want to go through specific key topics that people they don't fully understand, and the cause and effect of by doing these things, the judgment or the salvation that can come out of you doing these. But today we're going to go into, this one says, hold on. This is saying the forbidden sexual practices. Now, it's going to get deep. I was just reading, through the law because I'm trying to understand the cause and effect of things even more. A lot of us, we don't want to go into this law because it will condemn us and bring damnation, because a lot of things we do, that are the reason why we can't prosper or get ahead, or certain strongholds is on us when we think we're doing everything else right. All right, so I'm gonna get right into this, and I'm gonna read it. It says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. I am the Lord your God. So do not act like the people in Egypt where you used to live, or like the people of Canaan where I am taking you. You must not imitate their way of life. You must obey all the regulations and be careful to obey my decree, for I am the Lord your God. If you obey my decrees and my regulations, you will find life through them. I am the Lord. You must never have sexual relations with a close relative, for I am the Lord. Do not violate your father by having sexual relationship with your mother. Incest. She is your mother. You must not have sexual relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with any of your father's wives, for this would violate your father. And you see, it doesn't say your mother's husband, it says your father's wives. Because men, they can produce multiple seeds at any given time. While a woman is 9 months pregnant and, she's already pregnated, a man can still have multiple seeds. That's why the Most High said, be fruitful and multiply upon the face of the earth. But that don't go out and be a whore, because there's laws to having multiple wives as well, and how you treat them and the cause and effect of that as well. But, a lot of people, it's a big debate about, who can have multiple wives and multiple companions. But all the matriarchs and patriarchs all throughout the Bible had multiple wives with an S, and I did a video on that a long time ago, but let's keep going. It says, do not have sexual relations with your sister or half sister, whether she is your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born into your household or someone else's. That is forbidden. A lot of people do that as well. Do not have sexual relationships with your granddaughter, whether she is your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, for this would violate yourself. Do not have sexual relations with your stepsister, the daughter of any of your father's wives, with the S, for she is your sister. Do not have sexual relations with your father's sisters, for she is your father's close relative. Do not have sexual relations with your mother's sister, for she is your mother's close relative. Do not violate your uncle, your father's brother, by having sexual relations with his wife, for she is your aunt. Do not have sexual relations with your daughter in law. She is your son's wife, so you must not have sexual relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with your brother's wife, for this would violate your brother. Do not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. A lot of people do that as well. And do not take her granddaughter, whether her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, and have sexual relations with her. So this is even saying, even if they are not, you know, of the bloodline, and it's, it might be her child by another person, even though that's not, you know, your daughter or whatever, you know, once two souls come together, it becomes a soul mate, it becomes consecrated. Because you got to realize in ancient times, they didn't have weddings like you have today and have to go into these buildings and, you know, consecrated under a wicked pastor or priest, it was laws of cause and effect. Like once you be with a person for a certain amount of time, or you dealing with that person is your companion, your helpmate, it could be your concubine, or, it could be labeled as your wife, but there's laws and regulations to that as well, but do not mess with somebody that you are messing with, children, point blank, period. They are close relatives, and this would be a wicked act. While your wife is living, do not marry her sister and have sexual relations with her, for they would be rivals. So that would create jealousy. But if a woman does die, it is said that you can marry her sister. Sometimes you're supposed to marry the widow, because she's the next thing that's closest to what your wife was, to keep the bloodline strong, if that makes sense, um it says, do not have sexual relationships with a woman during her period of menstrual impurity. I just was reading on, how you're not even supposed to lay with a woman while she's on her period. You're not even supposed to touch her sheets, a lot of things, and how 7 days after the fact, you're still not supposed to touch her until, a 7 day cycle of purity, and it's a lot of cleansing and stuff that has to go on with that as well. It's even after childbirth as well, doctors, they tell you 6 weeks, but in ancient times, the ceremonials and rituals was different, It's still a process behind that. Do not permit any of your children to be offered as a sacrifice to Molech. That's a lot of that going on. Human sacrifices, children sacrifices, where they talk about where they take these little children and they get them real scared, and some of them, they say they tie them up, they peeing on themselves. When they get them real scared, they cut their blood because the adrenochromes, they increase when a person is scared. Like when your adrenaline's rushing, they're called adrenochromes. Whereas though when a person is in fear or scared, and these people, they drink their bloods. And it tells you about right before this, it says prohibitions against eating blood, and it tells you the cause and effect of all that too. All right, it says, do not permit any of your children to be offered as a sacrifice to Molech, for you must not bring shame on the name of your God. I am the Lord. Do not practice homosexuality, having sex with another man as with a woman. It is a detestable sin. A man must not defile himself by having sex with an animal, and a woman must not offer herself to a male animal to have intercourse with it. This is a perverse act. Do not defile yourself in any of these ways, for the people I am driving out before you have defiled themselves in all these ways, because the entire land has become defiled. I am punishing the people who live there. I will cause the land to vomit them out. So it's basically telling you when these acts go on within a nation or landmass, or they tell you the law is done away with, and they implement these things so they can become the norm like they did in Sodom and Gomorrah. There's a judgment that's going to be rendered on a specific period and cycle, like you are seeing right now in this great reset, this great tribulation, mystery Babylon, the whore that sitteth upon many waters, called spiritual Sodom and Egypt. And those who are watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it said the land will vomit you out, because this is the cause and effect. That means Mother Nature is going to render a judgment and it's going to sweep you off the land. There's going to be natural disasters and things that's going to follow. And people lives is not going to be at peace. They're not going to have longevity, and eventually it's going to take its toll like it did before. It's nothing new under the sun. It's going to happen again, which is about to happen. That's why they told you this law is done away with, and they implemented a new law, and that is the norm. So guess what? This is what's going to happen. The land is going to vomit them out. I said He said, people I am driving out before you have defiled themselves in all these ways, because the entire land has become defiled. I am punishing the people who live there. I will cause the land to vomit them out. You must obey all my decrees and regulations. You must not commit any of these detestable sins. This applies both to native born Israelites and to the foreigners living amongst them. So it's basically telling you, and God told you before, He said, those that cleave to the Israelites, spiritual lights in the end time, they will be, saved and blessed because they're following the way of life. The word Africa, the original name was Ethiopia, and the original name for Ethiopia was Ethiopian people. If you notice, the land of Canaan, and Egypt was, from Hamites, but if you look at it as well, the land of Canaan, if that was an African land, that shows you that the land of Israel is not in the Middle East, it is Northeast Africa. So the Shemitic people came from the Ethiopian land, and the Hamites also came from the Ethiopian lands as well. Let's clear that up. This applies both to native-born Israelites and to the foreigners living amongst them. So those that are close to you and they adapt your ways, they have to follow these laws as well, because if they don't, it'll fall back on you because they are your company. You can't mix and mingle these seeds. And some people, more and more I read, some people can become adopted, not into your nation, but into your community and your way of life, because you got to look at it. You took two Hamites and they were adopted to become Israelites, two Hamite nations, the two tribes that were initially, I believe, Joseph adopted in, took them in. They were actually of the nation Ham, but they became Israelites, because they became part of their community and he took them in, as, his own, and it was consecrated and it was done. So, a lot of things are possible. The foreigners living amongst you. All these detestable activities are practiced by the people of the land where I am taking you. And this is how the land has become defiled. So do not defile the land and give it a reason to vomit you out. You see how Mother Nature is going to work? You know, don't give the land a reason. So he's telling you the land is alive. Where you live at, in this womb of the earth, it is alive and well, and it has a conscience. The spirits of the winds have a conscience, just like it said on Pocahontas, to talk to the trees, the animals, they all have a conscience. And it was just saying that, and the prohibitions against eating blood. And it was telling you about how you should not drink blood because their lives and souls are in this blood, just like we read in the 9 Ether book. It said that our spirit is in our blood, the plasma in our DNA. And that's where it is alive and thriving because it's pumping throughout the body into all the eternal organs through the heart. And the heart chakra is green. What is ether? It is pure green. That's what I learned in the Nunakai tablet. He said, as it will vomit out the people who live there. Whoever commits any of these detestable sins will be cut off from the community of Israel. So he's talking about, the foreigners or the people that you keep in your company, that's the cause and effect. It will fall back on you. So obey my instructions and do not defile yourselves by committing any of these detestable practices that were committed by the people who lived in the land before you. I am the Lord your God. That's out of the law. We're gonna do a little short video every here and there out of the law. So it'll bring awareness to the cause and effects of our behavior. And will bring blessings upon us. Salah, so be it. I'm out.